They laughed as she struggled to lift the crate. "Should have stayed in the kitchen, soldier," one of them muttered, loud enough for the others to snicker. Sergeant Ava Morgan kept her grip firm, though her arms trembled. The weight was brutal, but the weight of their stares, disdainful, dismissive, was heavier. Sweat clung to her brow, the sun punishing her through the fabric of her uniform. She set the crate down without a word, her back straight, her face blank. The laughter lingered in the air like a bitter perfume. Ava had come to Fort Ridgeline on temporary assignment, a transfer the others deemed unnecessary, unearned. To them, she was the symbol of policies they resented, a woman, smaller, quieter, easy to underestimate. The whispers followed her like shadows. Weak, unfit, lucky to be here. But no one knew what she carried beneath the sleeve of her uniform. Her body bore more than muscle and scars. It held the silent stories of places not printed on maps, of missions scrubbed from records, of friends buried without names. She had served in the quiet wars, the ones no one spoke about in morning briefings. Years ago, in the suffocating heat of an uncharted valley, her unit had been ambushed. Pinned, down, outnumbered, dying by the minute. She could still feel the press of the dirt against her face, hear the frantic static of broken radios. When their commanding officer fell, it was Ava who crawled through blood-soaked grass, who memorized enemy patterns, who called for an airstrike. With coordinates, she scratched into the dirt with a stone. But that story lived only in the silent pages of classified files. No medals, no public commendations, only the emblem stitched carefully inside her sleeve, a token granted to those who had survived missions that never officially existed. Now, at Fort Ridgeline, none of that mattered. Here, she was just a supply sergeant. And in the eyes of the others, she was just weak. The days wore on. The disrespect sharpened. They knocked her clipboard from her hands. They loaded her with the heaviest gear. They called her a burden, a quota, a mistake. And through it all, Ava said nothing. She bore the weight, the silence, the humiliation, as though each slight was another stone in her pack. There were others on the base, those who saw but looked away. A young private with nervous eyes. A seasoned corporal whose mouth twitched with unsaid words. Silent witnesses, trapped between the comfort of complicity and the risk of speaking out. And Ava? She just kept moving. Until the day of the inspection. The base buzzed with tension. General Rowan himself was visiting, a man whose reputation demanded flawless order and spotless discipline. The sergeants lined up the troops. Ava was positioned front and center, a cruel joke by those who still thought she didn't belong. As General Rowan approached, the same soldier who had mocked her weeks before barked, "Stand tall, Sergeant Morgan. Let the general see what mediocrity looks like up close." His voice dripped with derision, sharp enough for the general to hear. General Rowan paused. His cold gaze swept over Ava, over the crates she had been moving alone, over the sweat-stained fabric of her uniform. His eyes narrowed, not in judgment, but in recognition. He stepped closer, his hand resting briefly on the insignia pinned to his own chest. His voice, when it came, was low, steady, and heavy with something the others had never heard from him before, reverence. "Soldier," he said, his gaze piercing through the years and the silence, "roll up your sleeve." A hush fell over the assembly, curiosity flickering in their eyes. Ava, calm as ever, folded her sleeve until the hidden emblem emerged, a black star woven with a crimson thread. A symbol invisible to the public but unmistakable to those who had survived the ghost missions. The air thickened. The mocking smiles faded. The weight of their mistakes settled in their throats like gravel. The general raised his voice, not to reprimand, but to reveal. "This emblem," he said, turning to the assembled troops, "is not earned in training grounds or parades. It is awarded to those who walk through missions the rest of us are ordered to forget. Soldiers who carry battles in silence, victories in shadows, and scars the world will never see." His gaze returned to Ava, a flicker of respect softening the hard lines of his face. "Soldier, you carry more than this base could ever understand. You stand taller in silence than most do with a battalion behind them." The courtyard, moments ago thick with mockery, now rippled with the weight of realization. The soldier who had mocked her stepped back, shame blooming on his face. The young private offered a rigid, trembling salute. The seasoned corporal lowered his head, guilt carving deep lines across his brow. And for the first time since arriving, Ava allowed herself a faint, almost invisible smile. Some battles are fought without witness. Some victories live in silence. Strength doesn't always speak. Sometimes it simply endures. As General Rowan turned away, he left behind more than words. He left a space forever changed, a courtyard, where silence now commanded respect. In the days that followed, no one mocked Sergeant Morgan. They saluted her. They sought her guidance. They listened, because now they understood. Sometimes, the quietest soldier carries the loudest war. If this story moved you, tell us where you're watching from. Share your thoughts about silent strength and unseen heroes in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that reveal the quiet battles behind the uniforms.